Coming up today, South Korea's main opposition party vows to reduce the wealth gap between the rich and poor. It also pledges to tackle corruption within the nation's business groups. Representatives from all 6 members of the long-stalled Sixparty talks, and that includes North Korea, have gathered in Beijing for a rare round of talks. South Korea, the US and Japan are expected to pressure Pyongyang over its nuclear program. Plus, Donald Trump has fired his campaign manager for reportedly having a poor relationship with the Republican National Committee and party officials. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Tuesday, the 21st of June. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. We are going to start with domestic politics today. The interim leader of the main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea has been briefing lawmakers on his party's priorities, the second in a series of addresses from the major parties this week. For more, we go to our Shin Se-min, who's on the line for us at the National Assembly. So, Se-min, what did we learn from the party leader's remarks?
Well, Mark, once again, the main talking point was the economy. Kim Jong-un, the interim chair of Minjoo Party of Korea, said the country's economic fundamentals should change to support economic democratization, an attempt to ease the wealth gap between the rich and the poor. At the same time, Kim criticized the current administration for lacking the will to implement such changes and said his party's presidential candidate will be someone who takes on the responsibility of making Korean people's livelihood better. He also addressed the issue of financial irregularities at Korea's family-controlled conglomerates, also known as chaebol. Kim said he would immediately push to strengthen oversight of the conglomerates to prevent financial abuses and abuses of power. Kim also touched on the issue of inter-Korean relations. He emphasized the need to counter any threats coming from North Korea by boosting national security, while also proposing to hold an inter-Korean parliamentary level meeting to help relax the current tensions between the two Koreas. That's all I got for now. Mark, back to you.
Thank you, Se-min, for that report. Now, the ruling Saenuri Party and the government have agreed on the need for a significant supplementary budget this year. Meeting at the National Assembly on Tuesday, ruling party officials asked the government to seriously consider allocating extra funds for youth job creation and for workers who might be affected by the government-led restructuring of ailing industries. The government officials said they understood the need for an extra budget and were looking into possible measures. The amount has yet to be decided. Officials from all 6 nations of the long-stalled Sixparty talks will gather for a rare meeting in Beijing today to discuss regional issues. A number of bilateral talks are lined up on the sidelines of the event, but the US insists it's not meeting one-on-one with North Korea. Gonsoa with more.
Dubbed the Mini Sixparty Talks, the annual Northeast Asia Cooperation Dialogue will bring together officials and scholars from all 6 members: South Korea, the United States, China, Japan, Russia, and North Korea. South Korea's vice negotiator for the talks, Kim Gun, will represent South Korea, and North Korea will be represented by Choi Sun-hee, Deputy Director for North American Affairs. Attention is focused on the North's participation as it's the first Pyongyang has sent a delegation since 2012 and comes just 5 months after the regime's 4th nuclear test in January. South Korea, the US, and Japan are expected to use the sessions as an opportunity to convey a message to North Korea to end its nuclear program. While bilateral talks between South Korea and China and the US and China are likely to be held on the sidelines of the event, the US State Department made clear on Monday that Sung Kim, its special representative for North Korea policy, will not meet one-on-one with his North Korean counterpart during the event. The Sixparty talks aimed at denuclearizing North Korea haven't been held since 2008. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter says the U.S.'s cooperative relationship with South Korea and Japan is a key part of Washington's Asia-Pacific security network. Speaking at the Center for New American Security on Monday, Carter said the pioneering trilateral mechanism maximizes the three sides' individual contributions. He added that the partnership between Washington, Tokyo and Seoul helps the U.S. coordinate responses to North Korea's nuclear and missile provocations. The U.S. Defense Chief also announced plans to conduct a trilateral ballistic missile warning exercise in the waters off Hawaii later this month. However, Carter did not mention plans to deploy a U.S. missile defense system known as THAAD to South Korea. A local court is scheduled to open a hearing on 12 North Korean defectors who Pyongyang claims were abducted by the South Korean government. This afternoon's hearing was requested by an association of progressive lawyers to determine if there's any truth in North Korea's claim. It marks the first time for a local court to hold a hearing into the legality of the government's temporary protection of North Korean defectors. The group, who had worked in a Pyongyang-run restaurant in Beijing, fled to the south back in April. North Korea insists the South Korean government kidnapped them and has been demanding their swift return. Seoul has reiterated the defectors came here of their own free will. The Busan Coastguard is sending a team to the Seychelles to investigate the killing of 2 Korean fishermen by 2 of their Vietnamese crew. Officials say the 7-person team will fly to Dubai on Tuesday night for a transfer to Victoria, the capital of the Seychelles. They are due to arrive there on Wednesday evening Korea time. The investigation will focus on determining what drove the Vietnamese fishermen to stab their Korean captain and chief engineer to death. They will also oversee the process of escorting the Vietnamese men back to Korea to face trial. The families of the victims will also fly to the Seychelles via Dubai on Tuesday night. Moving on now to the investigation into the country's 5th largest conglomerate. Seoul prosecutors are looking into whether Lotte Group's business units were involved in dubious transactions involving paper companies to create slush funds. Kim Minjoo reports.
Lotte Group has been found to have engaged in suspicious transactions in Vietnam involving a paper company. In 2014, Lotte invested some $400 million to establish Lotte Center Hanoi, a 65-story complex with a 5-star hotel and apartments, a department store and offices. While the complex was being built, Lotte Asset Development, the group's property development arm, bought a paper company named Corliss in Luxembourg for about $60 million. The purchase gave the business unit the right to use and develop the land on which the complex was built. Later, Lotte Shopping and Hotel Lotte each bought 45% of the shares of the paper company, leaving Lotte Asset Development with just 10%. The combined book value of the 2-unit shares is roughly $100 million. But last year, the paper company posted a net loss of about $50 million, and Lotte was criticized for going ahead with the business project while bearing the financial burden. Prosecutors are looking into whether Lotte Group used the special purpose company to inflate the losses and whether it used the extra money to set up slush funds for the owner family. Lotte Group has brushed off allegations, saying that SPCs are set up to help the parent company comply with local regulations when it's involved in overseas investment and development projects. As the investigation progresses, the fate of the founder's 2 sons will be determined at an upcoming shareholders meeting this weekend. The shareholders of Lotte Holdings, the group's de facto holding company based in Tokyo, will meet on Saturday to vote on whether to dismiss Lotte chairman Shin Dong-bin. The meeting was requested by Shin Dong-ju, the eldest son and Lotte Holdings' former vice chairman. The younger Shin has long had shareholder support, and they voted in favor of him at 2 previous meetings. But with the investigation continuing, all eyes are on the impact it will have on shareholders and whether they will change their minds. The elder Shin was stripped of his executive titles at 3 of Lotte's units early last year and has since been struggling to claw his way back up to the top. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
International oil prices are forecast to stay on a steady uptick in the second half of the year as production by OPEC members is forecast to dip despite demand remaining relatively high. The Korea Energy Economics Institute projects the average price of Korea's benchmark Dubai crude will reach $45 a barrel. That's $1.6 higher than the Institute's previous projection made last month. Daily oil production by non-OPEC countries is also expected to fall by 800,000 barrels from last year. In January, Dubai crude was trading at under $27 a barrel. However, the Institute says variables exist. A rate hike in the US could cause prices to rise, while prices could drop if Britain votes to leave the EU. The number of registered vehicles in Korea is expected to top 20 million this month, which is about 2 for every 4-person household. That's a dramatic increase from 45 years ago, when it was just 1 vehicle per 100 households in 1970. According to the Transport Ministry, the number of registered vehicles last month was more than 19,960,000, company cars excluded. Korea has added 50 to 60,000 automobiles every month this year, and 1 in 10 units were imported cars. US Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has decided to part ways from his right-hand man, Corey Lewandowski. Watchers see it as part of Trump's efforts to reinvigorate his campaign, which has lost steam in recent weeks. Kim Mo-kyun has more.
Donald Trump is shaking things up as he looks to get his bid for the White House back on track. Trump spokesman Hope Hicks said Corey Lewandowski would no longer be working with the campaign, but thanked him for his hard work and dedication. The decision comes a month before Trump heads to the Republican Party National Convention in Cleveland. Over the past few months, Lewandowski has clashed with Trump's other advisors about how to appeal to the broader general electorate and made headlines that lumped even more controversy on the Trump campaign. Back in March, he was investigated by Florida law enforcement authorities for allegedly assaulting a reporter when she approached Trump. Speaking to reporters outside of his New York apartment, Lewandowski said the decision wasn't so much of a surprise.
I have said and will continue to say I will support Donald Trump in any endeavor he has. If I can play a role in this campaign, whether it's formal or informal, that would be an honor for me to have. And I can tell you it's been such an honor and a privilege to be part of this from the beginning, so it's been great.
His departure reflects a major adjustment in the campaign as Trump has been facing setbacks following a series of controversial statements regarding Muslims and Mexicans. Lewandowski will be replaced by Paul Manafort, a prominent strategist with extensive presidential campaign experience. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
The US Senate has failed to advance gun control reforms put forward in the wake of the Orlando terror attack. Senators on Monday voted on 4 bills, 2 sponsored by Democrats and 2 by Republicans, but all 4 fell short of receiving the 60 votes required to pass. Democrats proposed restricting people on a federal no-fly list from buying guns and demanded background checks for online gun purchases. Republicans proposed increased funding for background check systems and a 72-hour delay on gun sales to suspected terrorists. Also, in the spotlight on Monday was an FBI report that revealed the shooter, Omar Mateen, called 911 3 times during the attack while holding more than a dozen people hostage. He reportedly demanded the US stop bombing Iraq and Syria, saying that was why he was carrying out the shooting. Now, it looks like we're going to be bidding farewell to the early summer sunshine for a while, as the monsoon season will have southern Korea in its grips by tonight, and almost the entire country will get a soaking tomorrow. The Korea Meteorological Administration says the showers will start in the southern regions and on Jeju Island before spreading nationwide on Wednesday as a seasonal rain front moves northward across the peninsula. Regions south of Korea's central Chungcheongdo province will see up to 80 millimeters of rain overnight, accompanied by thunder and lightning, so take care if you're on the road. And the weather agency forecasts that the monsoon season will stick around until early next month. Well, those are stories we've been following on this Tuesday afternoon here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com/news. It's also worth checking out our smartphone application. All you have to do is search for Arirang TV in your usual app store. Have a great day. Goodbye.